Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany. I'm from Beijing, China. I go to a private university.
Hello everyone, this is Akshay. I'm from Mumbai, India. I go to a public university.
My name is Fatima, originally from Nigeria. I go to an HBCU, meaning historically black colleges.
My name is Tingwen, and I'm from Vietnam. I go to a community college.
I want to be able to influence the world, and United States stands out as a pace setter in research. I'm so excited about being here.
In my opinion, US degree is extremely impressive, and that makes studying abroad in the US an excellent choice.
There are many types of institutions in the United States.
I think it's just so unique that there's so many to choose from.
I had to make a major choice between the type of university that I was supposed to attend. The major factor that I considered was the scholarship opportunities that were available and the alumni network.
I've heard so much about the HBCUs as historically black colleges. I chose those because I wanted a school that really represents me.
As a humanities student, I prefer seminars instead of lectures because I find myself better understand the material if we get to discuss it in class. That led into my decision of going to a private university.
I chose a community college to study because most of the community college offer affordable costs, and they often offer a lot of majors you can choose from.
Some of the things I find that are in common between different types of institutions in the US is that the curriculum are more comprehensive.
It is more practical oriented that really helps you get hands-on experience about what you're learning.
Students can benefit from forward-thinking technology and modern facilities.
And I love the diversity, the fact that it's a melting pot for everywhere in the world. And so it's an awesome experience for me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our today's sessions. I'm very happy to have you all here, and I'm very excited for our today's topic. So guys, my name is Alina Yakubov. I am Education USA advisor, and we are here with another interesting topic related to the test optional policy. And we have here two guest speakers. We have Kэрol from Northwestern University, Qatar, and we have Alex Энglендер from Assistant Director of Graduate Admissions and Renssellarskого Institute. So we would like to talk with you more today about the test optional policy because we know that you are very, very interested to have more information on that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go over the test optional policy and tell you more what would that mean and how does it work. So I think it will be good just to have a better perception on how the test optional is also considered these times. So as you know, since the pandemic, most colleges have introduced more flexibility and choice in the admission process. So they've adopted the test optional policy. So that means that you wouldn't be anymore, it wouldn't be any more mandatory to have the SAT and the ACT test. And today we're going to discuss specifically about how these things change, because we can see that there is a higher interest from the universities to go back to having the SAT and SCT and other tests as mandatory. So that's why we have our invitees today. We really wanted to have their opinion on how does it work and how does apply in their institution specifically. So I would just stop a bit and leave everyone to introduce themselves. So let's start with Kэрol and let her tell more about their school and tell us more about what exactly are the program and the majors that the students can apply for.
Thank you, Alina. This is a very interesting topic regarding test optional. We are Northwestern University in Qatar. Of course, Northwestern University is number 9 nationwide in the United States. In Qatar, we only offer journalism and communication. So this is the top major at the main campus, and this is what was brought to Qatar under the umbrella of Qatar Foundation Education City. So being a journalism or communication program, it is a very creative one, which we don't not only look at the transcript or academics of the student, we would like to see creative and talented ones. So it's correct what you said. Since the pandemic, we turned into test optional, but because we stress a lot on writing and we need students, let's say, their writing skills. So we need to see strong English background. That's why we ask for the TOEFL or the IELTS or Duolingo. So this is an introduction, just a small one, and I will answer your questions once you ask them.
Sure, thank you. Okay, Alex, let's go over with you.
Yes, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. My name is Alex Englender. I'm Assistant Director of Graduate Admissions at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. We are in Troy, New York. We implemented a test optional policy for graduate school, for graduate programs back during the pandemic. And so far it's been very well received. We only have one program that currently requires the GRE or the GMAT, and that is our cognitive science program. But for the most part, we think that the test optional has been helpful. And really what that means for a graduate student is you don't have to submit the GRE or the GMAT scores to be considered for admission. If you do submit those scores, they need to help your application. You should not submit scores that are going to take away from the application. And I'll get into more of that as we go further, but it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much, Alina.
Thank you so much for attending. Okay, so what I think it's gonna be also good and nice to talk about is actually how would that work. So we prepared a list of questions that we will go over and we will ask our speakers to answer at. And I think that's the beauty of having these two speakers, which are from different. One of them is for undergraduate degree, and the other one would be for the postgraduate degree. So they can answer, from different perspective how this test optional policy would work. And afterwards, guys, during this month, as you might know, and you can see on our website also, we will also have speakers from ETS, from College Board, and from Duolingo, and they will give you more perspective on what are the changes that have been adopted in the last period for the standardized test, and what are the structure and the nuances you should consider when preparing for such a test. Okay, so let's start with the questions that we have prepared. You guys also can address them. You have here the comment section, so please feel free to ask any type of questions that you think it might help you. You can also address us questions about the application process for these two institutions. So we'll also leave you the contact information for Carol and Alex. But now let's start with the questions. Okay, so one of the first question, which I think is very, we are frequently having it from our students, is how does the absence of standardized test scores affect the evaluation of the application? So let's start with Carol, if you can say how that would work at Northwestern.
Okay, now we have, like I said, switched to test optional regarding SAT or ACT, but we still ask for the TOEFL or the IELTS. And in addition to that, we look at the English standard of the student through the high school transcripts. We ask for the last 3 years of school, and we would like to see high scores in English. So basically, I mean, we accept any student from any school, but we have to see a good standard in the English language based on TOEFL or IELTS or Duolingo or the English at the school.
Can you say what would be the minimum score, like, for example, for every one of that test?
I mean, there is a minimum, but in the end, it's a competition. So, I mean, we say the minimum score for the IELTS, let's say, is a 6. For the TOEFL is 105. And for the Duolingo, a minimum score of 125.
Okay, that's very great to know. Do you have something else to add here, Carol, or?
I mean, again, we have a holistic decision. We will not look at only the scores, the test scores. We will look at everything. So a student not offering us a standardized test score does not mean that they are not eligible, or if they do, it will not add value. That's a thing.
I think that's a perfect answer, and the students need to know that there are schools where they can get without having those tests. So, so I think that's very useful to know that they should concentrate more, for example, on their English proficiency and concentrate on the test that you have specified, and yes, and not having the standardized tests like SAT or ACT for an undergraduate degree. That doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. You have still other options if you are very proficient in English. Okay, Alex, how is it working for Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute?
So, when a student submits their application, it is optional. For international students, they do need to submit, just like Northwestern, TOEFL, Duolingo, IELTS, or PTE. And those are mandatory. With a few exceptions, those exceptions are on our website. Other than that, the GRE is optional with the exception of cognitive science. If they choose to submit GRE scores, they need to be, the verbal should be in the mid 150s, and the quantitative should be in the 160s. That's what we're looking for, especially the quantitative, because we are a STEM school. We have lots of STEM programs, and you need to be good at quantitative analysis. But how it affects an application, we review applications holistically. So we look at a student's the whole package. Their resume, their statement of purpose or personal statement. That's very important. We look at their letters of recommendation. We look at their transcripts. Obviously, no one of those will disqualify a student. And, if you don't have great grades, then that's when I would suggest you take the GRE or the GMAT and you submit those scores. If you have a 4.0, don't, because the GRE, unless you do, get in the 99th or 98th percentile, they're going to hurt you. And if you submit bad scores, that is when they will say, okay, well, there's a disconnect here between the GREs and their transcript. So really what a student should do is contact us in the Office of Admissions and ask us about, if they have taken the GREs, if they should submit those scores. Ultimately is their decision, and we always leave it up to them. Because we cannot make their decisions on how to submit a good application, but we can advise them on different ways to go about it. I think the overall evaluation of applications, though, without the GREs has really helped students overall.
Okay, and would that affect a graduate student in case if he wouldn't have, I don't know, the GRE or GMAT, would that affect his possibility of getting finance? So it wouldn't?
No.
Okay.
So the way funding works here, if a student applies to our PhD program, most of our PhD students do receive full funding. If they are a master's student, especially in our School of Management, we offer a very generous merit-based scholarship, and that has nothing to do with the submission of standardized tests.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so you both specified about the holistic admission. I think Alex even went a lot into details, but I would like to stop more on that and if you can just tell us more on how exactly would you review a candidate's profile and his application as a whole, as he wouldn't have his test option, as he wouldn't have his standardized test. I mean the SAT or ACT, GRE or GMAT. So if you can just describe the holistic review process and how it applies to test optional applicants. Carol, can you give us more introduction on that?
Yes. Now, regarding our applicants, there are certain requirements that the students has to offer us to be able to read his application. Now, what we concentrate on is a writing supplement that is called Why Northwestern. So the students have to show us their interest. This is one important factor. Another thing is a personal essay, which is optional. But students doing it or writing it, it will add value to the application. It shows that the student is really interested and we hear a story about this person. Another very important thing is of course, the transcripts are important. Again, the English part of it. And because we are a liberal arts school, we will look at subjects like history, geography, economics, business. We want to see those subjects and we want to see high grades. So, for example, we see all of this for a certain student, but the element of interest is missing. That's where the holistic decision comes in. We want to, how interested is this student? Did this person attend any of our virtual or in-person events? Did they ask for an interview? Did they, for example, did they interact in any way with our students, with staff? All of this because of our system where we capture all the students who interact with us. If we do not see any of this and we have a academically top student, again, it will not help them. We want to see a full-rounded student. So answering your question, what factors, I mean, everything matters, everything. So there is no certain weight on transcripts or English proficiency. Everything matters. Talent, anything. So this is how we look at the applications.
Okay, perfect. Alex?
Certainly. So when we get an application, we have a scoring rubric. And the scores may, each component of the application has a score, has a ranking. You know, the personal statement is scored, I think it's 1 through 5. And what we look for in a personal statement is, why do they want to come to RPI? What field do they want to pursue? Why do they want to pursue it? What faculty members are they looking to work with? What is their research interest? We look at all of that and then we create a score. You know, did they cover everything that they want, that we needed in the personal statement? And the same thing is true with the letters of recommendation. You know, is it a solid, positive recommendation? Is it a lukewarm recommendation? Is it a bad recommendation? And all those components receive a score. At the end, we add up the points that the student has received, and that is, then there's a threshold of whether they are admitted or not admitted. So really, you know, what the student wants to do, especially, you know, this would be great for the analytical students out there, is they want to gin up their scores. They want to get a highest score as possible on their application. Now, if they submit GREs or the GMAT, that's not scored. There is no point value to the GRE or the GMAT. So if they don't submit it, there's no score. If they do submit it, there is no score. If they submit and there are really good exam grades, and they're kind of borderline, then the faculty could say, well, this person submitted excellent GRE scores, so that could elevate them if they're right on the border into being admitted. But there's no score associated with the GRE, and so it really has no place in our scoring rubric for the admissions. Now, the TOEFL, IELTS, those are scored. Students need to meet the minimum qualifications, minimum standards for IELTS, TOEFL, etc. They need to meet the minimum GPA. So there are minimums that they need to meet outside of the GREs in order to be considered for admission.
Okay, perfect. So you already specified that for Northwestern, definitely there is no test that they are requiring, the optional ones. But how would you track the success and performance of student admitted under the test optional policy? So, for example, even about their academic success during the academic year, how would it be rated? And in case if that's for the example, Alex, I will also give it, you specified that for the cognitive science, they would have to take the GRE. How would that work in case, it's not test optional, you said, that's mandatory for them to take the GRE. How is it in general? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, the GRE is mandatory for this one program. And that's because the program is very complex, and it draws on both science and humanities. So we really want a good idea if this student is proficient in those areas.
Okay, and how about the other students? In case if they have been admitted, as I've said, under the test optional policy, how would it would be for them? How would you track their success?
If they graduate.
Okay.
Honestly, we don't. I'm not aware of any tracking that we do of test optional versus students who submit their scores. As far as I am aware, once they are admitted, their application is their application. They start with a clean slate, and we expect the students to do their work and do very well. Usually when a student does come to the graduate school, and I'm sure Carol could attest to this at the undergraduate side, we expect them to do very well. And for the most part, students do very well, especially at this caliber of institution like Northwestern and RPI. We're not admitting borderline students here. We're admitting some of the best students in the country and in the world.
Okay, definitely. Carol, if you can add something here.
Yeah, it's true. We are even more selective than the main campus. We have a small campus and we have a limited number of students we can take. So we will be choosing very high standard students. We expect that when they come, they will be having no issues. And specifically that we don't have scientific subjects that require, success in the test, like the SAT mainly is required at medical schools, engineering schools. This is what it is important for, and it is necessary, but for us it's not. So based on their English language, this is how we evaluate them.
Okay. Also, another question that I wanted to give. During this test optional policy that has been working, are you also introducing the interviews with the students to test their English proficiency, or is it sufficiently for them to have only their English score, only the TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo? How is it working for both institutions? Carol, if you can say about.
No, we don't have a test. I mean, for us, we trust the IELTS or the TOEFL or the Duolingo. Plus, we authenticate their transcripts, the high school transcripts, and we trust the schools and the system, but we do not have another testing system after the student or before the student is admitted.
Okay.
So for us, if we receive a student's IELTS, TOEFL scores, sometimes, and this is very rare, but sometimes a department may decide, or a program may decide, to interview that student if they excel in a certain area, if they have, an amazing transcript, but just their English proficiency scores are a little bit lower than what we're looking for. They may choose to interview the student, especially on the PhD side, because they want to know if they would be able to teach a class, because we have teaching assistantships. So there may be an interview, especially for our TA or RA positions, for students who may not have done well on their English proficiency exams. It's not for everybody. And what happens then is if they are admitted with low IELTS scores, they may be enrolled into an English class to help them get a better grasp of the English language while during their first year, because we really want them, obviously the classes are taught in English, we want them to succeed, and if they're not understanding what is going on, if they're not understanding the language, or if they're not able to write proficiently, then there's going to be a problem.
Okay, I think that sounds good. And in case if the student would start the English course, Alex, I would just ask for more details on that. Then definitely the students will be tracked, and he will have some tests that will prove that he succeeded to have a good level.
Yes. They would need to make a certain score to pass the class. I am pretty certain, and I don't have a lot to do with this. Actually, I don't have anything to do with this area, but the department really tries to work with their graduate students with their language skills, because we're investing a lot of money into them, and we want them to succeed, and we want them to do well. So they will work with the student, and they will do what they can to help them.
Okay, perfect. The other question, and I will just say that if Kэрol, in your case, if you can just tell us more about also the scholarships and the financial aid that Northwestern would provide to undergrad students. So even though they have a limited number of programs that are available specifically in Qatar, if you can just tell us, even though there is not the test optional policy that is working, if you can just tell us on the scholarships and the financial aid, how is it working for undergraduate students, and on what they can count? What are the types of scholarships they can receive?
Yes, so regardless of test optional or whatever, now we have two ways to finance the students. Like I mentioned before, we are under the umbrella of Qatar Foundation, where they have a program for all the education city universities. So any student who applies to one of those universities, they can apply for financial aid. This is a need-based program. So depending on the need of the family, they will provide a certain amount or certain percentage of the tuition fee. Some students receive 10%, some 50%, some 100%, some 100% plus accommodation, depending on the need, like I said. And this is a loan. After they graduate, they can pay this loan back on an installment basis up to 15 years and interest-free. This is one way to pay it back. The other way to pay it back is to work in Qatar for 6 years at an approved organization. They receive their full salary. Nobody takes any money from them. It's like community service, but they live in Qatar and they support the country. The other way to support the finances is a full merit scholarship. Very selected students, top of, let's say, the pool of what we see, receive a full merit scholarship which includes 4 years of the tuition fee plus accommodation. So, but these are very, I mean, they have to be very unique. And this year we gave to 12 students. I mean, the ones we gave, all of them attended. This is the nice thing about it. So this is how our finances or financial aid and scholarships work at Northwestern Qatar.
And can you please specify how many international students you had, like also related to the merit scholarships, and from what countries? Maybe that will also give the students a better understanding. What are the countries that are on the campus in Qatar?
Okay, this year, I mean, okay, Qataris, let me explain something. Qatari nationals, the government pays for their education, whether in Qatar or wherever they go to. So Qataris are not included. International, the rest are all international, but some who live in Qatar, who have gone to schools in Qatar, they are considered expats. But we gave 2 expats, and the rest were all international students coming from abroad. Nationalities we had different nationalities. We had Palestinian, we had from Kazakhstan, we had from Armenia, we had from Brazil, we had from China. We had so many different nationalities this year.
Okay, that's good to know, because we covered the Central Asia part. So guys, if you are really interested about the merit scholarships at Northwestern, I think you can also get back with an email to Kэрol, because we'll leave her contact information. Good. Alex, how is it working for Renssellarskого Polytechnic Institute?
So at the graduate level, all financial aid decisions, all funding decisions are at the program level, which means they apply to physics PhD. The physics department makes the decision on whether that student would receive funding or not. So a student would submit their application. After an admissions decision is made, obviously, if the student is admitted, then they go on to be evaluated for funding. And this is for the PhD. The admissions committee would meet again after they make the decision on the admission, and they would then decide funding of the student and what lab the student would be in, who would be the supervisor, all of that. And once a decision is made, then a letter would be sent to the student outside of graduate admissions, informing them that they had received funding. The funding is administered by the program. It is not administered by the Office of Admissions. We have nothing to do with how the student is funded. Now, we also offer master's students a merit-based scholarship. Usually it's up to about 40%. Those scholarships are determined at the time when admissions is offered. So they evaluate the application for admission, and then they evaluate the application for the merit scholarship. And if a student is going to receive a merit scholarship, that letter is usually sent, if not at the same time as their admissions decision, it is sent shortly thereafter, within a day or two, usually. Now, and this is for both domestic and international applicants. So there is no federal aid component. Obviously, domestic students here in the United States, they can apply for federal student loans. to supplement the master's scholarship. On the international side, there are options available. There are student loan corporations that do lend to international students. There are also a lot of scholarships available to international students, and I would suggest that anybody who is interested in pursuing a master's degree in the United States, they first start with their Ministry of Education, because a lot of countries, their governments will pay for them to go to another country to get their master's degree or graduate degree and then come back. So that's where I would suggest they start. And we're also very, we will try to help them as much as possible and point them in the right direction where to find the scholarships they're looking for. I would also recommend, if a student is interested in studying here in the United States, and this is regardless of whether it's RPI or not, that when they are filling out their application, they start looking at scholarships and fill out scholarship information as well, because a lot of scholarship deadlines are going to be in the spring when the application deadlines are as well. And you don't want to wait until you've been admitted before you start looking for scholarships.
Okay, that totally makes sense. Thank you so much for this explained response. So my next question, I think it's going to be somehow more for Alex. So since the test optional policy has been adopted, the Rensselaer Institute, has there been a change in the number of applications or the profile of admitted students?
So, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I think we have...
my screen is just frozen. Okay. So we implemented the test optional policy during the pandemic, when we started to see applications decline. And we've seen a bounce in the number of applications that have been coming in since we implemented the test optional policy. Whether that increase will continue, I don't know. But I think overall, the policy has been a positive because we're trying to break down the walls that are preventing quality students from applying to our school. And we want the best students available, regardless of where they're from. So in having this test optional policy, they don't have to spend the money on the GREs or on the GMATs. And so we're breaking down another wall and another barrier for them to apply. And, you know, I want to thank you for hosting this because we also want to expand our reach, not just from, you know, the China and India super countries where a lot of graduate recruiters go, but to Eurasia, Middle East, and other countries, because we have a great, strong program that I think would be very appealing to students over there.
Okay, sounds awesome. Kэрol, I actually also would like to ask you something, maybe also not related to the question. So about the change in the number of applications, have you seen an increase since the pandemic? Have you seen that there are more students that are super interested to specifically apply to Northwestern?
Again, yes, like Alex said, we had a positive change. And we're having more interest, but I think since the World Cup that happened in Qatar, we hosted the World Cup, people started recognizing Qatar. So the World Cup had a big effect. And and many countries, specifically the Asian countries, they started visiting us in person, not only just contacting us virtually. They are flying to Qatar to see this place, and they are discovering the education city. So yes, we had an increase in numbers, not because of the test optional, definitely not. I can say that it is, I mean, the country is attractive, and many people discovered it now.
I think that's awesome. And they have, the chance also to get another culture and, this cultural exchange. So I think for students, that's also important. And especially for those who are in Central Asia, is not that far from their home. So I think they also use this opportunity just to not be that far. Okay, so I think we are done with the questions that I have prepared for you, but we have one from one of the students that have watched us online. So we will allow now time to answer the questions that we received in the comments. Okay, so the first questions. Carol, Qatar has been a popular destination among Kazakhstani students. One of my students wants to go to a smaller safety university as a gap year because we have 11-year system, whereas Qatar university require 12-year education. Is that right? Would he be eligible to start in Qatar? Does Qatar count foundation from an university as 12th grade study? I think that's a great question.
Yes. Now, first of all, I want to mention that Kazakhstani students' numbers grew drastically last year. We had a huge number of students applying. I don't know what, I mean, I think social media, and they introduced Qatar in Kazakhstan and their TV station. And we had one Kazakhstani student who studied communication and advertised Qatar. So this is one thing. Now, regarding 12 years of school, it is important for us. A student finishing 11 years, we have understood the system of the Kazakhstani schools. Yes, 11. We know that in Kazakhstan it's 11 years, and we read applications based on that. So don't worry about that. We will be eligible if you have a holistic application, and you need to compete with other Kazakhstani students. This is how we will accept you.
Okay, so it's not a problem if he didn't finish the 12th grade. It's okay if they.
Kazakhstani students finish grade 11 years. They don't have grade 12. 11.
Right. That's what the person is actually asking, if he's eligible for that, even though he has only finished the 11-year system curriculum. And I think it's not only Kazakhstani. There have been other countries that have this 11-year system. So definitely you shouldn't worry about that, guys. There are more countries, and that's not an issue, definitely. Okay.
Usually what we tell the students is, show us what you have. You finished school, show us what you have, because we have the information about schools. We can go back and refer through embassies to their education systems, and we have understood the different countries' systems. So don't worry.
And also Education USA centers, guys, many universities, they would reach out directly to us and they would ask us about the educational system in a specific country. So in case if they would have some misunderstandings or questions, they would need to clarify, they can also reach out to your Education USA advisor. So yes, that's also an option. Okay, so I think we are done with the questions also from our audience and also the questions that I have prepared for you. I'm so thankful to you, Bob, that you have attended our session today and our webinar. I'm more than sure that this is a great start to all the other sessions that we have planned for September, and that gives our students a better understanding of how the test optional policy work, and that they shouldn't be worried about the fact that if they don't have the SAT, ACT, GRE, or GMAT, they wouldn't be accepted to an university. So there are plenty of majors, plenty of universities that you can research and you can apply for, and they wouldn't require you to have this the optional test. So I see here Kэрol and Alex have specified their contact information. So if you guys have more questions and if you need to know more information about those two institutions, please email them. We are very thankful that you had time and you allowed time to be with us today. Thank you so much, Kэрol and Alex, for being with me today. And for sharing with us this awesome information. And you guys, you have a great start of the week. Actually, it's the mid of the week, so you have a great end of the week already. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful.